This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 10th day of June in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. One-man band performer, 53-year-old Daniel Melbourne, who was known as Love Vibrations, appeared in court today and was slapped with 6 charges related to the death of construction worker Ronald Williams, who was hit down by a speeding car on the 23rd of May. In court today, Melbourne was charged with causing the death of Williams by dangerous driving. He was also charged with failure to report an accident, failure to render assistance after an accident, failure to produce the vehicle for examination, giving false information to the police, and attempting to obstruct the course of justice. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. He was refused bail on the charges and remanded to jail, despite the pleadings of his attorney, Patrice Henry. The matter was called at the Vigilance Magistrates Court before Magistrate Fabio Azor. The death of the construction worker Ronald Williams and the removal of his body from the scene and the dumping of the body in an isolated area at Caldogen on the East Coast has triggered public anger. The construction worker was walking along the roadway at Enmore with a friend when he was struck down by the speeding car, which bore registration number PAB 2552. According to eyewitnesses, the driver of the car stopped and picked up the victim's body, claiming that he was taking him to the hospital. But Williams was never taken to any hospital, and his relatives spent 2 weeks searching for the body. After being identified by the friend who was with Williams at the time of the accident, Melbourne was arrested, but later released as he claimed that his car had been stolen. But the friend of the dead man maintained that Melbourne was the same driver who picked up the body and left the scene. Investigators rearrested Melbourne on Monday, 2 weeks after the incident, and police sources said information was provided to them about the area where the body was dumped. On Tuesday afternoon, police investigators cordoned off an isolated area just off the railway embankment at Caldogen, and it was there that they found the decomposing body of the 50-year-old accident victim. A post-mortem examination found that Williams died from multiple injuries caused by a vehicular accident. It is still unclear whether Williams was still alive when the driver drove off from the scene with his body. This morning, his sister said the family remains devastated.
Every now and then, I get very emotional. Right now, I feel drained out. I feel like if I don't have life. Because this is almost 3 weeks now. I haven't eaten properly. Sleepless nights during the time when I was looking for my brother. And now sleepless nights because someone else is under pressure. I know the feelings of the mother. I'm a mother. If anything like that happens to my son, I would feel it. I know how the parent is feeling. I know how the man is feeling, but what could I do? It's out of my hands now. It's in the hands of the law enforcement agency.
The accused Daniel Melbourne will return to court on the 22nd of July for the continuation of the case. More news coming up in just a moment.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
Doors and windows, Republic. Rooms and more, Republic. A brand new rug on the floor. Come to Republic, come to Republic. Whatever you need, you got it. Come through and get your mortgage. Live the dream with Republic.
95 to 100% financing, 50% waiver of negotiation fees, plus one lucky person gets their mortgage paid in full. Turn someday into today. Talk to Republic Bank about your low-cost mortgage today.
Drivers, need to renew your motor vehicle license? Skip the lines and save time by using the GRA's License Revenue Office drive-through facility, located at the GRA's parking lot, Camp and Lamaha Streets. Simply present your expired motor vehicle license and a copy of your motor vehicle registration at the front window, pay and uplift at the second window, and drive on your way. It's that easy. The LRO opens Monday to Thursdays from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and Fridays up to 2:30 p.m. GRA, your partner in development.
When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobile One adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of mobile lubricants.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
A Haslington East Coast Demerara family is crying out for justice following the police shooting death of 25-year-old Haslington youth Quindon Bacchus. Details surrounding the latest police shooting death are sketchy. However, in a brief statement this afternoon, the Guyana Police Force claimed that a party of police ranks was in the Haslington community this afternoon when they saw a man with a firearm. The police force claims that when the ranks were approaching the man, he opened fire on them and they returned fire, fatally wounding the 25-year-old. The police force said a .38 pistol with one live round and one spent shell were recovered at the scene of the incident. News source understands that the youth was shot multiple times to his body. An investigation has been launched. Following two separate and unrelated violent incidents at a new Campbellville Secondary School and the Lodge Secondary School this week, the Ministry of Education, with support from the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Guyana Police Force, has stepped up security at the two schools. This morning, students arriving for classes had their book bags searched by police officers and private security personnel before they were allowed to make way into their classrooms. The decision to beef up security at the two schools followed yesterday's discovery of an air gun in the backpack of a fifth form student at the Lodge Secondary School and the schoolyard brawl at the Campbellville School between students. The Ministry of Education suspects that there is a presence of classroom gangs at both schools, and the Education Minister Priyamanik Chan has now issued a call on community leaders to join the fight to address the problem.
The schools that have those problems are schools that need an entire overhaul. It didn't happen overnight. None of this happened overnight. And so we have to relook at the entire structure of that school, academically, physically, civil works, everything. And we're in the process of doing that with a few of the schools. And we will require all the help we can get from the entire stakeholder community, teachers, parents, students, the community, elders, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Social Services, the Ministry of Local Government when they're not schools in Georgetown, the entire gamut of players to make sure that we can turn around what we're going.
Earlier this week, teachers at the Lodge Secondary School walked out of their classrooms in protest of the presence of gangs in the school and the constant threats being hurled at the teachers. The Education Ministry has announced its zero-tolerance policy against violence and intends to employ various measures to address the problem. Citing the recent shooting off of guns and bottle pelting that took place at a recent stage show while Jamaican dancehall star Skeng was performing, the minister responsible for public security in Guyana, Robeson Ben, has announced that artists like Skeng will no longer be allowed in Guyana at events in public places.
And I have to say here and now that no artist like Skeng will ever come again into this country. Will not come again into this country under the signature of any person from the Ministry of Home Affairs or from the Guyana Police Force. Will not come on a public stage. If they want, they could go in a private club and behave as badly as they want. But we will not sign off on any such artist, who has a record of promoting vulgar and lawless behavior, including the firing of gunshots in public spaces.
Under a previous PPP civic government, when Robeson Ben served as the Minister of Works, he had come under fire when he barged into one of the state-owned radio stations and ripped a CD out of its player because he did not agree with the lyrics of the Calypso song that was being played on air. The Ballaration concert, which was held over Independence Weekend back in May, featured Skeng and a number of other Jamaican and Guyanese artists. The event was hosted as part of the band launch for Guyana's Cricket Carnival, which takes place in September. The firing of gunshots and the throwing of bottles in the air took place near the end of Skeng's performance as he sang his hit song, Protocol. While the Minister of Home Affairs has announced his plan to direct the police force and other services not to grant permission for the hosting of public events featuring artists like Skeng, he did not outline what system or procedure will be employed to determine the admissibility of foreign artists to perform in public places based on the lyrical content of their music. While there were 6 events hosted by the Hits and Gems promotion group as part of their band launching for the Cricket Carnival, the Skeng show was the only one that ended prematurely because of bottle throwing and the firing of gunshots. The Guyana Police Force had announced that an investigation was launched into the shooting incidents. While there were several video recordings of persons firing their weapons, the police force is still to announce any arrests as part of the investigation. President Irfan Ali today urged leaders from the Western Hemisphere to begin having a conversation that defines a pathway to energy security for the region. Speaking on the final day of the Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles, California, President Ali reminded regional leaders that the region has the potential and must use every available tool and all the assets to maximize energy security. The president also called on the region to define a pathway for the integration of infrastructure, people, and economy. He highlighted the situation in Venezuela and the role Guyana has had to play to cater for Venezuelan migrants escaping the hardships of their homeland. The president said there is need for more unity in the region.
And I urge my colleagues for us to take collective responsibility in fixing the system. Collective responsibility. Wherever we are in the hemisphere, Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, let us take collective responsibility at this conference to fix the problem and fix the system in the interests of the people of this hemisphere. Let us forge ahead to unite the Americas, strengthen our relationship, forge in respect and good governance, so that when we reach again, we do so as a singular whole and create a winning formula and culture for all.
President Ali said the region must take collective responsibility at the conference to fix the problem and fix the systems in the interests of the people of the hemisphere. He said the Americas must be united and the relations between countries should be strengthened. Let's tell you now that the Caribbean and the United States are making moves to strengthen relations in the areas of energy, security, and infrastructural development. During a meeting with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, Caribbean nations were offered the scope to access funding for their energy infrastructural projects through the Partnership to Address the Climate Crisis 2030, which is a mechanism initiated by the U.S. to address energy security and climate crisis within the Caribbean community, CARICOM. Under the agreement, the U.S. intends to support Caribbean countries' energy infrastructure and climate resilience projects from beginning to end. President Irfan Ali has welcomed the partnership. During the meeting with the Caribbean leaders, the U.S. Vice President said the climate issue remains a crisis for the entire planet.
We will work with you to identify new clean energy projects. Second, we will provide technical assistance to make sure these projects are viable and appealing not only to you but to investors. We will bring then investors to the Caribbean on essentially road shows to showcase the projects. And fourth, and finally, we will improve access, and importantly, we will improve access to development financing, which will make these projects a reality. We will engage with the private sector at every stage of this work because, of course, their involvement is essential to making this productive and meaningful.
The U.S. Vice President said when the transition to clean energy is accelerated, economic opportunities for the entire region will be unlocked.
When we work together to address this urgent threat, it benefits the people of the United States and the people of the Caribbean. And all of us, of course, benefit by reducing emissions.
The U.S.-Caribbean relation remains a priority, Harris noted. She said while the climate crisis is one of the U.S.'s highest priorities, there are still other issues that are important and that must be addressed together. CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett relayed that energy security in the Caribbean is a critical matter as countries seek to transition their energy systems to more modern, clean, and reliable supplies of renewable energy. She said member states are heavily dependent on fossil fuels for energy needs and are predominantly net energy importers.
Our position is to optimize our indigenous sources as we make that judicious transition to renewable resources. We are therefore pleased to have this conversation. We are aware that our own public sector fiscal constraints limit the extent to which our governments can finance a transition to renewables, and therefore the undertaking to provide sources of financing that our private sector can access is really very important.
Guyana's President Irfan Ali said regional leaders need to work closer to play their role in tackling the many issues related to climate change. 3 weeks after the Director of Public Prosecutions discontinued the private criminal charge against attorney Nirvan Singh over his alleged use of racist language towards a police constable, the attorneys for the police constable have filed another private criminal charge against the attorney, who is the son of former acting Chancellor Carl Singh. In the new charge, woman police constable Shonat Bullers is alleging that on the 20th of March, while she was on duty at the home of the attorney's father, she was unlawfully assaulted by him. Appearing before Magistrate Leron Daly, the attorneys representing Nirvan Singh requested reasonable bail, as they argue that the matter is a waste of judicial time, since it is similar to the previous matter, which was discontinued by the DPP. Attorney Nirvan Singh pleaded not guilty to the new private criminal charge, and he was granted bail in the sum of $100,000. He was told that his next court appearance will be on the 6th of July for the continuation of the matter. The woman police constable is claiming that while Singh chased her from his father's yard, he spat at her and allegedly hurled racist remarks towards her. The attorney has repeatedly denied the allegations. The woman police constable has also filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against attorney Nirvan Singh. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Salt Guyana Inc.
Doors and windows, Republic. Rooms and more, Republic. A brand new rug on the floor. Come to Republic, come to Republic. Whatever you need, you got it. Come through and get your mortgage. Live the dream with Republic.
95 to 100% financing, 50% waiver of negotiation fees, plus one lucky person gets their mortgage paid in full. Turn someday into today. Talk to Republic Bank about your low-cost mortgage today.
Have you heard the news?
The CPL is back.
Oh, yes! The finals coming to Guyana.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
See you there.
Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
The government of Suriname has announced an increase in the price of fuel products even as the Dutch-speaking CARICOM country battles with rising prices for basic goods and services. The new prices went into effect on Thursday and resulted in a liter of gasoline increasing by more than 3 Surinamese dollars. The price for a liter of super unleaded moved by more than $5. The Ministry of Finance in Suriname said the international oil price has risen sharply in the past month, partly because of the ongoing war in Ukraine. The Surinamese government said that the subsidies are intended to protect citizens and businesses against the turbulence on the international oil market, but it warned that the subsidies are likely to be phased out and replaced by a system of subject subsidies. Suriname has been suffering from a serious financial and economic crisis for several months. In 2020, immediately after taking office, the new government turned to the International Monetary Fund for financial assistance. Across the region tonight, Latin American leaders rebuked U.S. President Joe Biden face-to-face yesterday over his exclusion of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua from an America summit he is hosting, underscoring the challenges he faces to reassert leadership in the region. Biden was targeted for criticism by two fellow leaders in speeches that followed his opening address in Los Angeles, in which he laid out his plan for a U.S. economic partnership with Latin America. Speaking on the first day of the Summit of the Americas, Mr. Biden said his administration was committed to helping Latin America and the Caribbean recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, tackle irregular migration, and improve living standards. But he quickly faced sharp pushback over his decision to cut out Washington's three main regional antagonists, which spurred a boycott by some leaders, led by the Mexican president. Shortly after Biden's speech that extolled the virtues of democracy in the region, the Prime Minister of Belize criticized the exclusion of communist-ruled Cuba and leftist Venezuela, calling the illegal blockade against Cuba an affront to humanity. And finally tonight, international news. The United States will no longer require air travelers to have proof of a negative COVID-19 test before entering the country from abroad. Officials said they were dropping the requirement due to the tremendous progress that the country had made in the fight against COVID-19. The travel industry has been pushing for an end to the policy, which they say has deterred bookings as families fear getting stranded abroad. The change comes into effect this Sunday. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will re-evaluate the policy in 90 days. The administration said it would not hesitate to act to reinstate the rule should new variants make officials believe it is necessary. The U.S. introduced rules requiring air travelers to test negative last year. The policy did not apply to land crossings. The travel industry, which has seen demand surge as concerns about the pandemic wane, has said the U.S. has lagged behind other countries in re-evaluating the policies. The UK removed all COVID-19 test requirements for travel back in March, as did Canada, Italy, and other countries. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight and this week. I'm Gordon Mosley, thanking you for joining us and encouraging you to have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Take care.